Hi, fibrologists. It's Tony from the Fibrology Lab. And I was in the process of creating a live demo, trying to get something going with my YouTube channel and using two cameras, but I had some really bad feedback. I'm sure it was just my internet. So I went ahead and just recorded this short video for you to enjoy for our Friday demo. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. I would gladly answer them when I get back to it. And hopefully you'll enjoy this little demonstration that I have done with English paper piecing.
All right, guys, I'm here going to do just a little demo on English paper piecing. I've had people ask about it. I've had some people also ask about how to do it by machine. That might be something I will probably redo in a different video. But I just want to keep in the basics right now for English paper piecing. It is a handwork process. And what I've done for fun is I've piled all the tools that I typically use when I'm doing English paper piecing. So I have a little zipper pouch that I carry my stuff in carry along because it's a portable project. That's what I like about English paper piecing. And right now I've got about 3 English paper piecing projects going on, and I might show you those here in a minute. But let's kind of go through this pile of, notions to kind of get you familiar what will make your process of English paper piecing easier to do. Now, the first thing is you see this little rotating mat. This one, I think it's a 9-inch rotating mat. Actually, it's a 10-inch rotating mat as I'm looking between my lines here. So that's the first thing that makes it a lot easier for your cutting and trimming, and then also for your gluing down of pieces. So let's pull out that small ruler because we know that's for the cutting processes. And I do like the 28mm rotary cutters, and I like the ones like this where they're kind of an open face. Again, it allows me to get around my templates if I'm using them because, EPP comes in not just hexagons, but so many different other shapes, and you could order templates to help you through the process as well. But I prefer the 28mm rotary cutters for this. Everybody needs a glue stick. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. You can thread based. I do prefer glue based. Thread basting is for me is a little more tedious in time, and the glue works especially when you're working around smaller sizes and edges of triangles and other things that you might be doing with your EPP. I do use paper inserts. There are plastic inserts out there that you can reuse, but you can reuse your paper ones a couple times as well. Even if you do a thread basting, because it just it just leaves holes behind. So I have those templates. I'm going to show you how how I do one. And then I have Thread Magic, or Thread Haven, which they don't make anymore, but I have lots of that too. And this is for running your thread over. It's a silicone-based product, and what it does is allow that thread to, when you start stitching your pieces together, kind of go a little together more seamless. Makes it so it doesn't get knotted. Naughty thread. I have a threader, a needle threader. I prefer milliners or straws. I think these ones are 10s. I use 10s or 9s. They're hard to come by, to be honest with you. My favorite brand is John James, and they've changed their brand over the years, so there's a lot of challenges with that as well. But they're a really fine needle. I like them also because the milliners are longer and thinner, so it allows you just to capture the edge of your EPP projects. I do use a thimble. This one is a leather one, another Clover brand. I love Clover. I have lots of Clover. I have magnets. These are sew tiles. They have different sizes and shapes. This one, obviously, if you're a Tula fan, you can see it's got the TP on it. And there they went off the table. But anyway, they're very strong magnets, and they help you with your piecing process, and it takes less strain off your inner fingers and thumbs, and that's why I do enjoy those. This is a way to keep myself organized. I've used bobbins, and I'll put thread on here and put it in a little bobbin boat. This one's called a bobbin boat. Isn't that cute? Can you guys see that? It's upside down. Just so when I'm matching up now, and typically when we're piecing with quilting, we just tend to use a color like a cream or a taupe or a gray. But with EPP, you kind of really, because your stitches will more likely show, you kind of really want to make sure your thread matches your fabric you are working with. So that's why I have this ready to go. This is called a thread dome. This is the coolest thing ever. So this top twists off, and inside you can hold 10 needles with thread on them. And I do this a lot. I have a couple of these, one for embroidery, one for my EPP. But what you do, this is an embroidery thread because it's got floss on it. But see, I've got quite a bit left. I didn't want to throw that thread away. You just stick it in one of the little slots. So the needle goes down, and then turn it until the thread goes into this crevice right here. And then just with your thumb, rotate that around. And what it's doing is putting that thread down into I don't know what you want to call a little holding space underneath that. But it keeps it all neat and stores it perfectly for you to reuse. You can see I've got like 3 or 4 needles in this particular one. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 needles. 6 needles in this one, but it's great, especially for EPP, but anything else you might do hand stitching with. So this is called it's a Clover product. It's called a thread dome. Pair of scissors, and of course fabric and paper. So I'm going to go ahead and show you just the basics of what I do. This one I did already. You can see how I have folded the fabric all the way around and cut it. I do cut it 1/4 inch. Sometimes, depending on the pattern, I have been known to cut a little bit bigger because typically a lot of people like to use a 3/8 seam allowance. I just do 1/4 inch because that's kind of what I've been taught, and I just go with it. So first of all, we need your glue pen. I am going to put just a little dot of, oops, so if I turn it up, put a little dot of glue on that, on the paper. I said little, don't use too much. Otherwise you'll have a hard time getting the paper out. Kind of center it on my piece. So this is, this particular hexagon is a 1-inch hexagon. And how do you know that? The size is based on the measurement of one of the sides. So this is 1 inch. From this corner to this corner is 1 inch. So this is a 1-inch hexagon. So before I start gluing it down, I could totally glue it down right now with all the extra fabric on it. I don't like that. When you have extra fabric in it, it weighs down those pieces and that top when you start getting it together. So I do go through with my rotary cutter and my little ruler, and I just go all the way around. This is why, as I'm doing this, you'll see how advantageous it is to have a rotary cutting, rotating cutting mat or cutting surface. And I love this one because it's small and perfect to go for traveling too. You need to do this while you're on the road. So, all right, so I just pull all that fabric crap out of the way. And now I'm just going to take my glue stick, and I glue a little bit on the paper and just a little bit onto the fabric. I don't use a lot. I don't know if you can see that, but that is not, oops, there you go. Not a lot of glue. And just finger press it down. Now, when you finger press it down, don't pull it so tight over the paper, because what that does is going to make the paper warp and it'll skew your shape. So just kind of rest it and bring it down flat. And I'm just going to go all the way around. I am left-handed, so if you're right-handed, it's going to be going the other direction. But as long as you're consistent on your directions, however you put it on, I wouldn't worry about it personally. Again, you can learn so many different things from other people, and I encourage you to do so. My way is not always the right way, but it works for me, and it could work for you. So now we have 2 hexagons that are glued basted together. I'm going to show you how I stitch them together. So I'm going to have to get to the floor and pick up my magnets. Well, maybe I won't. Well, I don't know where the magnets, oh, there they are. I got the magnets. And I'm going to just, it doesn't really matter which side I'm going to stitch them down, but I'm just going to put this in the middle. And again, these are super strong magnets. So you gotta be careful. If you have the bigger, they have, like I said, they have lots of different sizes. If you've got the bigger size, they will actually, they could be hurtful. They can pinch you. And we're gonna try to use a little bit of pink. Now this thread I'm using here, or that I have in my bobbins, is Orfil's 50 weight. And it's 2-ply, so it's a little thinner, but not that much thinner. Where's my needles? Let's use my wonderful needle threader. See if it works while I'm videotaping. That's always going to be a fun thing to make sure it works while I'm videotaping. And it doesn't. Try that again. The key thing with this is making sure that thread, I don't know if you guys can see it, making sure that thread goes all the way into that little concaved area. And there it goes. And what it does is pushes a wire through. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little loop from the thread being put in there. All right. Now I do a what they call a spit knot on the end. Just remember, spit knots are not necessarily secured. So what I do when I go through this, again, left-handed, I'm going to go through it a couple times to secure it. Let me put my glasses on. I can see better that way. All right, I'm hoping you guys can see this as I'm doing this. I don't know how the camera will work. I start at the corners and I get just the thread. So you're picking up the fabric that's right on top of the paper, on the fold of the paper. So you want to make sure, this is why you don't pull that paper down or fabric so down, pull the fabric down so tight, because it will not leave a space here for you to grab your threads. So you're just going to go just a little bit. You're grabbing the threads on the top. You do want your stitches tight, meaning you want them close to each other, because that way it's a more secured seam stitching. So I'm just going to work my way down, catching them. I'm hoping you can see this. Oops. I just unthreaded my needle. That happens. Oops. See, if I was doing this live, I'd be a nervous wreck. But hopefully you don't mind the little pauses in the video. So here we go back. I'm trying to make sure I can get it under the camera where you can see it. Yeah, I had terrible feedback. It has to be the internet when it does that sometimes. Just catching just a few little strands. If you guys can see that, few little strands of fabric. And you don't want to, if you hit the paper, that happens, don't worry about that. But at the same time, your goal is not to hit the paper. Your goal is to capture that fabric and not the paper. I forgot to show you how to run the thread through the lubricant, through the thread magic. I'll show you that after I finish this side. And the tighter and the smaller and closer you get your stitches, the nicer finish you're going to have on the front of your project as well. Get to the end here. And there's a lot of free tools out there. If you want to design your own, if you type in hexagon graph paper, you'll see all sorts of different graph paper you can color and do your own design piece. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing a knot at the end here. I'll go through the loops twice. Then I bury my thread by going into one of the sides that I just stitched down and push my needle through. And use my flamingo scissors to cut. All right, so I'm hoping you guys can see that. That's just basic stitching on the side of my hexagon. And when I open it up, you can see it's very challenging. I have this really close, but once you get into a quilt, you're not going to see that. And when you take the paper out, it'll also release the tension off that seam, so you won't see your stitches either. do not take the paper out until you have another section that's supporting on the other side. So like I will not take these papers out until I have something going all the way around this piece. So that's just something I have done with my EPP, and I have more EPP projects coming up to show you. I actually have a pattern called the Broomfield block that I think we're going to be working on this fall. If you're interested in that, just make sure you read our emails and watch what's going on on our weekly lab reports. So this is thread magic, and what I normally do is I just stick my needle in and just pull my thread down and pull it through it. And what that does is put that silicone piece, wax piece on your thread, and so it doesn't knot up as you're working through stitching. So that's just a little high-level overview of how I do EPP. You're going to see more of this over the next couple weeks because I'm working on Alchemy, which is Tula's Pink's latest EPP project from Paper Pieces. I can order all those things for you. If you are interested in one of those projects by Tula, let me know. I could order them in. And everything you see here is also orderable through the shop. So if you have any questions, again, leave them in the video comments below, leave them in the comments below the video, and I'll get back to you and try to get you going on your EPP project. You guys have a great one, and thanks for watching. Remember, we are friends, fibers, and fun.